Once upon a time, in the kingdom of YouTube, lived a happy little band of internet bloggers. They entertained each other with songs and stories, and some of them even took to dancing. They were fun and creative and interesting, and very, very, very opinionated. And as the news of this happy little land, where just about anyone could become an overnight sensation, spread, more and more people came to live in the kingdom. Now, some of the YouTube bloggers, as in all walks of life, were more interesting, more entertaining, funnier, wittier, sexier, more beautiful, smarter, more creative than others, and so they became celebrities, also pronounced Teletubbies. They lived in castles of overflowing subscriptions, their mantelpieces cluttered with honours, and their rooms lined with red stars. All was well in the kingdom of YouTube. But one day a shadow came to the kingdom. At first it was small and barely noticeable, but the shadow grew and grew and grew, until the YouTubers noticed that their once green and pleasant land had begun to fade. Under the influence of the shadow, the colours had begun to seep away. A slight chill was in the air. Sunsets that were once vibrant displays of indigo and gold turned slowly to grey. Some of the YouTubers tried to ignore it. Some tried to block it. Some tried to move to a different part of the kingdom. Some stopped dancing and singing. Some stopped painting and telling stories. Fountains and rivers dried up. And all the while the shadow grew and grew, until the YouTube community could ignore it no longer. For the shadow had begun to pray. Now there was in the kingdom a wise, if somewhat crazy, old man, rather short, with a shiny bald head and large black-rimmed spectacles, who loved YouTube, and in recognition of his great enthusiasm, the community had awarded him its highest honour. He was now one of the Teletubbies. It happened that this crazy and somewhat ingenious old man looked out his castle window one day and realized that his once happy little kingdom was under attack. It was no longer safe for his children to play in the streets. The laws that had been put in place to protect the community were now being perverted by the shadow for its own evil purposes. The people had gone into hiding, afraid to express themselves for fear of the shadow and what it might do. Now this old man, whose name was Renato, decided that he needed to do something about the shadow. At first he tried laughing at it, but the shadow merely laughed back, and in retaliation poisoned the well. Next he tried to befriend it, but the shadow was evil and did not understand friendship. Then he tried to distract it, and to draw it away from the kingdom, for there are plenty of places on the internet where shadows can wallow. But shadows are empty, and without something good to destroy, they die. Finally, in desperation, the old man called upon the gods for protection, but the gods were sleeping and did not want to be disturbed. Then Renato realized that the only way to defeat the shadow was to fight it. Now, as even the smallest child knows, shadows are notoriously difficult to fight. You can't use swords or guns or even nuclear bombs. You can't catch them, and no jail can hold them. But there is one weapon that shadows cannot stand against for very long: bright light. A shadow can overwhelm one small light, but when the brighter lights reach out and connect with the little lights, they create one huge burning fiery light, and the shadows have no choice but to run and hide from the sun, or join in. Now, as we all know, wherever there is sunshine there will always be shadows. But as long as the days of summer are warm and hospitable, and winds encouraging and supportive, the breezes friendly and respectful, the shadows are simply shade.